Greetings everyone, Jim Walker here. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Welcome back if you are a returning viewer. This lesson is another one in my series of favorites videos, my Friday favorites. This one deals with my choices of cymbals for steel band hits. I'm fortunate to get to play a fair number of steel band gigs when live gigging is a thing. As we record this in April 2021, it's just starting to come back. Can't come back soon enough, but that's a topic of discussion for another time. But I found through experimentation and listening to other drummers, certain cymbals and certain kinds of cymbals that I find to work really well. There are cymbals that I simply enjoy playing when I'm in the drum chair, or things I like hearing from when I'm out front and playing steel pan on a gig. The operative word is favorites. This is not meant to be a definitive list of what I think are objectively the best cymbals for steel band. These are not cymbals that I think everyone should use. I didn't do a ton of research into other drummers, because on my gigs I've had drummers come in with Zildjians, with Sabians, with Paistes, with a mix of brands. It's good. There are hundreds of options in terms of different cymbals and different combinations. And this is just what I found to work for me. So have I done a ton of research into the drummers of Trinidad and Tobago, finding out what they're using? No. Is this meant to be a list that is for every drummer? No. Are these the only cymbals that I'll use on a steel band gig? No, I'll switch this up from time to time. So it's just a matter of sharing what I found to work and talking a little bit about why I like them. Maybe if you get a chance to play these gigs, things that you can consider as you make your own creative choices. So we're going to start out with a smaller setup. I'm going to reorient the camera in a moment so you get a little bit better look. And my gigging on steel pan will vary from situation to situation. Everything from playing cocktail hour at a wedding to playing a concert, everything in between. So I don't necessarily use the same setup every single time. It depends upon the nature of the gig. Is it a focused listening situation, or is it background music? How much space do we have when we set up? How much time do we have to load in and load out? So all these things factor in. So I'm going to start with kind of a smaller, minimal setup, and then I'll branch out from there. So to start out with, I'm going with a pretty minimal setup. Ride cymbal, crash cymbal, and a set of hi-hats. And we'll kind of go around the horn left to right, which also turns out to be, for my money, in order of importance. In acoustic jazz, the ride cymbal, the main ride, or whatever ride or rides you choose to have, are the focal point of what the drummer is doing. Steel band music, Caribbean music, for my money, it's the hi-hats, especially for the soca and calypso grooves, which are kind of the meat and potatoes of this style of music. So what I've found myself using the most are a set of Paiste 13-inch dark crisp hi-hats. I'll have the weights for you. I don't have them off the top of my head, but I'll put those either in the description or as an overlay in the video. And I bought these years ago before I had any intention of doing a lot of steel pan drum set work, but they just have worked out really well. They're articulate, they're not overly bright or harsh, so they don't really interfere with the sound of the steel pan. I'll talk about that a little bit more when I get to the topic of ride cymbals, about cymbals and complementing the steel pan sound. But great for quick, articulate things, and great for soca grooves and calypso grooves. Next up, we're going to go to the crash cymbal, and this I've got a number of options that I could have picked out for today. Just happened to have this up on my kit anyway, so I left it up there. 16-inch Paiste Pre-Serial 602. Really, I'll go for any sort of smaller, quick crash cymbal. I don't want to have something that really has a lot of sustain that's going to kind of wash out and start to cover up the sound of the band. Steel pans, it's like I found it with Vibes. Maybe it's just me, but I found it on Vibes and I found it on steel pan. That an ill-chosen cymbal, I don't want to say a bad cymbal because for other contexts it might be perfect, but for something that's not the best choice for a steel band thing, the wrong cymbal can really clash with the sound of a steel pan, cover things up a little bit. I think maybe because they're both metal sounds, metallic instruments. So this is just something quick to get out of the way because the crashes I will play when I'm doing steel band work, quick accents, play, get out of the way. So sometimes I'll go out and I'll just have the two components here. I'll have hi-hats and a crash cymbal because really riding on cymbals and steel band thing is a minority of the time. It depends upon the gig. If it's something more jazz oriented, definitely I'll want a ride cymbal. Sometimes the songs lend themselves to that, like if we're doing a private party and they want to hear Yellowbird, that usually ends up being a bossa nova, even though it's not a Brazilian song. But that oftentimes will be the type of song that will incorporate the ride cymbal. Or again, anything that gets more jazz oriented. So again, a variety of cymbals will work. Variety of ride cymbals will work. I've used a bunch of different ones. Kind of a personal favorite, which again, favorite, point of this video. I've got a 20-inch. This is a prototype, but I compared it to a production model that a friend of mine had. It was almost identical, almost down to the weight. This is a Paiste Dry Dark ride. And don't be surprised if I have to post a correction on this because Paiste makes a dry dark ride, or made, they've both been discontinued, Signature Dry Dark ride and a Signature Dark Dry ride. I think this is the dry dark. I've had both cymbals for years. I've got I got a dry dark, I've got a dark dry. And half the time whenever I go online to reference one of these, I end up doing an image search to see which one is which, or looking in my notes. I can never remember because they are similar, definitely not the same. I may even put up the other one at some point, but this one, I'm going to say dry dark. Fingers crossed that I've got it right. You'll see the correction if I don't. Very articulate, it's exactly that. It's a dark sounding cymbal, very articulate, great bell, and does not have a lot of wash. So this fits my theme of finding cymbals that don't really clash or overwhelm, might be a better word, the sound of the steel pans. So this one, very clean. Forgive the noise. I have to move my microphone a little bit. I didn't plan ahead here. There we go. I don't know if that showed up at all in the sound of it, but to demonstrate this sound, very articulate, great for if I want to play some more involved rhythms, some faster rhythms on the ride cymbal. Sounds great, nice and articulate. And this is a classic Paiste cymbal, demonstrating what so many Paiste cymbals do. To really appreciate what they sound like, you have to hear it in context. So you heard a little bit of playing at the beginning of this video, and I'm going to be doing a little bit more at the end once I've gotten back to my full cymbal setup. And you'll hear it just even within that context of synth bass. This is from the demo thing I was working on years ago. I dusted these off for this video. Like synth bass, electric piano, and a steel pan. Even within that limited context, you'll hear the sounds a little bit different. So people look at this, it looks very industrial. Almost looks like if you don't play it, a metal drummer might use this for. And maybe they do. I don't know. I don't play metal. This is one of those cymbals that I heard someone else play on a gig. And I mentioned my friend before, I compared this one to his production model. It was his cymbal that I heard. And just from out front, I thought, this is nice. This is not clashing with my pan at all. So I kept my eyes open and picked this one up. So the next thing I'm going to add will be, no surprise, a splash cymbal. So we'll get ready for the fade in while I put this up. And we have, again, I've got 3 or 4 different splash cymbals that would work well for these purposes. And I'm just going to, favorites, all things being equal, what am I going to pick up? I've got a UFIP 10-inch Class series. Is it the light or the medium? The ink is gone on this one. Or they make an L and an H, which I've heard someone say that doesn't mean light and heavy, it means low and high. And I think this is the L model. It'll never show up on my camera. But this weighs 270 grams by my scale. I've got it written right here. 10-inch, made in Italy, and even though it's not in the catalog, as I understand it, it's not in the catalog as a splash cymbal. It looks like one, and sounds like one, and plays like a splash cymbal. It's a splash cymbal. It's just a list of favorite splash cymbals overall. This is at the top of the list. So just for those real quick accents, that's that Stuart Copeland influence, gotta have it. So that would be the next cymbal I would add to my setup, is the Ride Crash Hats splash cymbal. Next cymbal is kind of a rarity. Whenever I post a picture of this on my kit from a particular gig, someone says, "You use a China cymbal with a steel band?" Sometimes I do. So let me grab that one. Next up. And again, as with the UFIP, not just a favorite splash for this context, but just favorite in general. And I have no idea how this is going to come up on the camera. I'll move it a little bit. 18-inch Paiste Dimensions, 18-inch thin china. Yet another great cymbal, which has been discontinued by Paiste. I know this has, I don't know if the dark crisps are still available or not. This one definitely, although I heard that this one was folded into the 2002 line, back when they boxed up the Dimension series. Boy, is it a shame that the Dimensions aren't around anymore. Dear Paiste, but I digress. So this is one of the more pleasant China cymbals I've ever had the pleasure of playing and hearing. It's like a China cymbal that doesn't have all the things in it that people hate about China cymbals. So, people say musical sounding. What does that mean? What does musical mean? But that seems to be a description that a lot of people use for this. It's not harsh. It's one of the more pleasant China cymbals I've ever played. we're filling things up pretty well. I'm going to add one more. And just to round things out, and sometimes I'll have this up instead of the china. Just another small, basic, bog standard crash. This is another 16-inch Paiste Pre-Serial 602. Again, it's just a crash on the left, just to have a crash on the right, just for the convenience of it. So what we got now is pretty much the maximum that I can ever recall using on a steel band gig. It's getting to be a lot of stands and a lot of setup time. And for how often the crashes and china and rides get used, maybe a little overkill, but on the other hand, it's nice to have all these toys available. So if you need to hear a 16-inch crash cymbal, there's nothing special about it. I've got some old Sabian AA before the AA designation cymbals, early from like just when they were first available in the United States. What was that, the late 80s, mid 80s? I had them in college, so it had to be in the mid 80s. I've used those. I've used 602 ride, 20-inch medium ride. So all of these can be substituted out, but this is the basic set of components that I'll have. So I'll reorient the microphones, get rid of this vocal mic I'm mumbling into here, and play a little bit along to one of my tracks, and you can kind of hear these in context. So I'll wrap up now, say thanks again for checking out the video. Appreciate all your interest and support, and stick around to hear a little bit more playing, and that'll do it for today. Thanks again for your time.